Alex, thanks for taking the time to speak with us today.
My pleasure.
To get us started, can you explain what Grameen Foundation is and how exactly it relates to Grameen Bank?
Yes. Grameen Foundation is attempting to take some of the breakthroughs in microfinance, bringing financial services to the poor that were pioneered in Bangladesh, and also some approaches to bringing technology, information technology to the poor pioneered in Bangladesh, and extending them globally, especially in the countries where the majority of the poor live. And so we're a wholesale organization empowering the next generation of Grameen banks, their leaders, their clients, their staff, to help them achieve the same kind of success in their countries as Grameen Bank did in Bangladesh.
Okay. And now, as I understand it, you spent some time in the late 80s and early 90s, right after graduating college on a Fulbright scholarship, doing this kind of work in Bangladesh?
Well, yes, I spent 6 of my first 9 years out of college in Bangladesh, the first on a Fulbright. That's where I got started. And basically what I was trying to determine, if I think after the fact, of was Grameen truly a replicable model? Was there something here that, if brought to a global scale, could put a dent in global poverty? And certainly I saw many warts and many problems and imperfections, but I also saw something that was scalable and in its essential form replicable across a wide variety of cultures, and that gave me a lot of hope that this could be globalized.
And so, in starting Grameen Foundation, was that the conversation you had with Muhammad Yunus to say, I like what you're doing with Grameen Bank, I want to scale it across the globe? How did that work?
Well, actually, the conversation with him, essentially that, you're doing something great here, let's globalize it, goes back to when I was in college. When I wrote him a letter in my junior year in college, when I wrote it, I was actually a few blocks from where we're sitting today, doing a Cornell and Washington semester. And I just said, what you're doing is very exciting based on the little I've read about it. There wasn't a big literature at the time. And I said, I'd like to move to Bangladesh to understand it deeply, convince myself that it works and can be replicated, and then dedicate the rest of my life to taking it outside of the borders of Bangladesh. And for some reason, despite my youth and inexperience at the time, he invited me to become part of the larger Grameen family. And so the various steps that I took throughout my career leading to the starting of Grameen Foundation were all basically in keeping with that vision, written by a 20-year-old, and responded to by a man that would become my mentor. So there was a point at which, and there was something called the Microcredit Summit, which was organized by a friend and mentor of mine who also had a vision for expanding microfinance that had grown so much in Bangladesh to the rest of the world. And he was convening a large meeting to set an aggressive global goal for doing that. And that was the catalyst where we said that for many things in our field, including he and I agreeing that it was time to start something called Grameen Foundation.
Okay. Now, the vision, you mentioned at 20 years old you had a vision for what you wanted to do with the rest of your life. Not a lot of people do. Has it been easy sailing? Have you had difficulty in keeping with that vision? If so, how have you kind of kept on track with it?
Certain conversations one has in a lifetime end up being turning points. You may not know it at the time. And one of them in college was that someone said to me that every great global problem has been solved somewhere. And why the problem remains is that these micro solutions were never scaled. And so I began to develop a kind of a theory of change, what I would call now, was that the real low-hanging fruit was to take existing solutions that were localized to a global problem and globalizing the solution. So it's my theory of globalization, but really in a solution mode. And so, again, that basic being convinced that there was enormous progress to be made that didn't require wholesale reinvention, breakthrough thinking, in terms of, in the area of this world's great social and environmental problems, what was working and scale it. So along the way, pursuing that vision, tremendous setbacks. We were started with very little money at Grameen Foundation, $6,000, which Dr. Yunus provided himself, and we almost ran out of money twice. And I had went, several months in a row and 2 different occasions didn't pay myself a salary so we could make sure to not run out of money. We had projects that we invested a lot of our time in that never materialized. One of them with working with, then President Vicente Fox of Mexico, which was very high profile, and it yielded no impact. And I had gotten a lot of our board, put a lot of my own personal kind of stamp on that project, and it ran afoul adrift for external reasons and our own internal mistakes. So we've had our share of setbacks, and yet I think ultimately that basic vision that here was something that worked, warts and all, and it was replicable and scalable, and all it needed was a push, was a small cadre of determined people that wanted to take it to virtually every place where the poverty existed. That was just, I said, despite all of the mistakes and setbacks, that there were the basic promise of that model, that goal, was always alive and vibrant, and it's just pick yourself back up, get a good night's sleep, and go back at it. And I've been doing it 21 years, and I've never had something that a good night's sleep or 2 couldn't, get me back, advancing that vision.